Hi guys, Andy from Survival School, out on a level 2 bushcraft survival and wilderness living skills course. And while the students are building their natural shelters for this evening, the heavens have opened, and I mean, what more could you want on a bushcraft and survival course? But got me thinking and thought, let's do a little bit of talking about the extreme elements, why we need to protect ourselves from these as humans. So we are what's called homotherms, and so we regulate our body temperature. So if we get too hot, then we sweat, and that cools us down. And if we get too cold, our muscles will start shaking, causing heat, and that stops us from getting hypothermia. So if our body temperature goes up or down a couple of degrees, then we can succumb to hypothermia or hypothermia. So this is why we need to protect ourselves from the extreme elements. So the extreme elements can be the heat, the sun, the cold, the wind, the rain, and a mixture of them are then the killer combinations. So a mixture of being soaking wet, and then the wind will suck that heat away from your body, so that we need to protect ourselves from that by the clothing. So our clothing is our first line of defense against the extreme elements. So good outdoor clothing. And then secondly would be carrying some form of shelter. So a survival bag, a bothy bag, a tarp, a tent, something that you can get up and get out of them extreme elements. If all else fails, and if you get to this stage, then you're in big trouble, would be building yourself a natural shelter, or finding some sort of natural shelter, which is what the students are doing right now, building their shelter for tonight. So protecting ourselves from these extreme elements is super important. So as I say, starting off with the clothing on your back, and then carrying some form of shelter, protection with you, and then if needs be, building or finding a natural shelter, even diving under a holly tree or a holly bush, nice and dry in there, and just getting out of the wind and the rain. So if you can see the students in the background just building their shelters, they're just thatching them at the moment. So yeah, and this is what we emphasize to them, is getting out of the extreme elements and keeping your core body temperature around 36.8 to 37 degrees Celsius. As I say, if it dips lower than that, just by a couple of degrees, then you're going to succumb to hypothermia, or you're going to lose the dexterity in your fingers. So the dexterity test, touching your finger, your little finger on your thumb, and that means you've got the use of your hands, and that you can undo and get wet clothing off, or get dry clothing on, get into something that's going to dry you, keep you out of the wind or the rain or the sun even. So yeah, just a quick one there guys, hope that helps. So if you've got any comments, please leave them. Always like comments. And yeah, we'll better get back to students building their shelters for this evening. It's going to be a wet one.